This is Cecil Henove again with another live episode of Hashtag SU, still with David Haldane, an American journalist and book author. And he is actually here in Dumaguete to promote his Nazis and Nudists. And earlier, he was explaining how the title came about. And we were actually into discussing the book publishing industry in the US. And I was telling him before, off camera, that he's making me happy with his sentiments because here I am, really frustrated about our local book publishing industry. And even as a book author myself, I'm struggling with marketing my own textbook. Can you imagine that? Mm-hmm. But as you had mentioned, David, this is not an isolated case. This is also happening in countries like the US, right?
Yes, everywhere.
In other countries, and it is everywhere. Now, David, may I ask you this? Have you said that you did not simply just walk into the LA Times and you did not simply just look for your table and can I have my job? Can I have
Hardly.
my first assignment?
Yeah,
okay.
hardly.
Now, did you experience or did you have rejection slips given to you? Meaning,
oh, yes.
Oh, no, sir, I'm sorry, we can't publish your work. Yeah.
Hundreds
of rejection
well,
slips.
Well, maybe I'm exaggerating.
Okay.
Certainly dozens.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But no, I wrote for years. I sent things out before I ever had a staff job. I sent articles out, queries, and even book manuscripts, got them rejected. It was funny. Years later, I went back and I read some of the early rejection letters, and from my perspective now, having the experience I have now, I look at those rejection letters and they were really quite encouraging. Some of them said,
you keep your rejection letters.
Well, sure. I never throw anything away.
Really? Okay.
But some of them would say things like, well, we don't think this book is marketable, but you're a good writer, and we hope you try us again. Well, that's not even a rejection letter. That's
it's
an
encouraging.
But at the time, I thought, they don't like it. Boom, never go back and try it again. With that publisher.
Okay.
That was
so you
because,
don't go back. Go back to that.
I didn't, but that was a mistake because I was naive and inexperienced.
You should not have.
I should have gone back. I should have realized that a rejection letter that says, we like your work, but not this book, or you have promise is not even a rejection. That's an encouragement.
Okay.
But not being experienced enough at the time, I thought it was rejection.
Okay. Yeah.
So
yes.
Any kind of personal response is encouraging.
Okay.
But the point is, you don't give up. If you really need to write, again, I don't think you become a writer because you want to. You become a writer because you have to.
You have to.
If it's just something you want to do, you're not going to be persistent enough because it's too frustrating.
Okay. Yeah.
If you have to do it.
But you have to.
Yes.
You really have to.
Yeah.
Either as your way of keeping body and soul together, or perhaps because it is your passion. Would that be how it is?
Because it's your passion, because it's your... I actually got so frustrated a couple of times, I tried to quit. I said, this is not going anywhere, stop.
Okay.
And I could never quit, because I'd stop writing, get a part-time job. I remember one time I stopped writing, I got a part-time job teaching English at a company in Southern California, but they wouldn't tell us who we were teaching to. It was a big secret.
Really?
And we get down there, this is probably in the 70s, late 70s, and it turns out we're teaching to Iranian soldiers being taught English in Southern California, which was a big secret. And so suddenly I'm involved in this secret thing that nobody knows about, and I think, wow, this is a story,
Yeah.
So I call up the local, press, and I say, hey, what do you know? And they say, write it for us. So I was right back in the game. I could not quit.
That's right. So in other words, it was like, how would you call it? Not really double-edged, but I think you were actually hitting two birds, if I may have to put it that way, because hardly did you probably realize that it was a story in itself.
That's right.
Because you were supposed to pursue a part-time job, right?
And you know what? That brings up another point that I like to make. There's writing and life are not separate.
Writing and life.
And life. It's the same thing. You can't write without living. You can't.
Of course.
And this book is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because this book is about my personal experiences, which I had, and when I did most of the things in this book, I wasn't doing it because I thought I was going to write about it.
Yeah.
You know, I did it
yeah.
because it was life,
Okay.
and then one day I realized it was a story.
And it's your life.
Yes.
It's your life. Now,
Yes.
David, before we go into the nitty-gritty details of how you came up with this book, I'm actually surprised. Some people may be coy about writing about their lives.
Yes.
Some people may be kind of embarrassed
Yes.
to, lay out in the open something that is autobiographical. But here you are. You're promoting your book. You're here on at least local TV.
Yeah.
You have promoted your book in the U.S.
Yeah.
It's on Amazon, and we will talk about that in a little while. You are doing 2 lectures by tomorrow in 2
Yes.
universities in the
Yes.
city of Dumaguete.
Yes.
My goodness. So in other words, you're all over. I would like to say your life is now an open book.
Yes.
If that is
I'm afraid it
if that
is.
is a pun, no? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I've gotten over the shyness about it now.
No,
but
no coyness, no
not
bashful.
anymore. Not
Uh-uh.
anymore. But that was a process. That didn't happen overnight.
Okay.
And believe me, I had a lot of reservations about writing some of this stuff. But I've developed the habit over years and years of just writing about my life. And frankly, the reaction is not always positive. It's sometimes very negative. And it's actually a negative reaction that inspired this book.
Who say it? Who say that it is negative?
Who
are saying that it's negative?
I'll tell you the story about how this book got written.
And we
really.
have pictures
Oh, yeah.
of you and Ivy, let me
Yes.
see, but which are actually all precursors of why and how you were able to write this book, right?
Yes,
Ivy
this-
is very much a part of the
This
book.
is our wedding, and we
Okay.
got married we met in the Philippines, of course, online.
Okay.
And I was, an American. That's the picture of us Ivy arriving at LAX.
In LA, yeah. This was in about 8 years ago, am I right?
2008.
2008, yeah. 8 years ago.
Yes, that's
You, that's you?
That's Ivy's hometown, not
Okay,
me.
but not you riding on top
No,
of the...
that's in Caridad.
I thought, okay. Yeah, it doesn't look like you anyway.
No, it's not me, but that's just what her hometown looks
That's
like.
in
That is
Siargao.
me. That's in Siargao,
Siargao,
in a
okay.
little town called Caridad, where Ivy comes from. So really, the story that the book tells is how we met and how I courted her, and we met online, and I made several trips here to the Philippines to get to know her and her family, and she came from this little farming village in Siargao called Caridad. And, one of the first things, the first time I came to see her, and this is a big part of the book, we met in Suridao. She met me at the port in Suridao, and within an hour, we were on a boat with bananas and pigs on the way to the farm to meet Mom and Dad.
Together with
Yes.
the pigs and the bananas and everything.
They weren't going the same place, but they were sharing our boat.
Okay.
And so I ended up sitting there in Caridad. This is
Okay.
our
Who is
son.
this?
This is our son,
Great.
Isaac.
Okay.
He's 5 years old now.
Your son is not with you here in the Philippines now?
We left him in Siargao with grandparents.
Okay. In Ivy's hometown.
Yes.
Yeah, great.
He's with grandma and grandpa.
Okay. After all, he is 5, so
He's
he
5.
can be left alone.
Yeah,
That's
and
great.
This
That's really
is-
great.
And it's kind of a first-time experience, and we're hoping it'll be a little bonding experience
For the young boy,
Yes,
for the boy,
yes.
for
We
your
want
son.
him to get used to the Philippines too.
Is it
because
his first time to visit his...
no,
no.
He's visited the grandparents before, and it's about his 4th trip to the Philippines, I think.
Okay, great. So it's not something that is quite strange to him.
But this is the first time we've left him alone.
Yeah. Yes.
So
yeah.
and that's.
Was he
this is
fine?
new.
Was he fine with you leaving him with his
Well,
grandparents?
he was brave.
Oh, great. Oh, my goodness.
He wasn't crazy about it, but we call him every day on the.
great.
And we have a little video chat, and we say,
Yes.
"Hi, it's mommy and daddy."
Okay, that's really good.
So,
That's good.
but I wanna-
going back to what you had said about
So I
the
ended up-
autobiography and so
I
on.
ended up sitting in Ivy's parents' house in Caridad, being interrogated by her parents, the whole family, and pretty much the whole village.
That's how it
looking
is in
on.
the Philippines,
That's
really.
right. That's right. And they wanted to know what my intentions were with her daughter. with their daughter. You know, who was I? And I was both terribly intimidated and terribly charmed.
How old were you at the time? I hope you don't mind.
Well, let's see. I'm 67 now. I
oh.
believe I was about 59,
So
I
it
think.
can be
59,
told,
and
yeah.
Ivy was about 23, 24,
okay.
around there.
The age difference is how many years would that be?
34.
Okay,
34
something like
years.
that. Okay.
Very
okay.
significant age
Yes,
difference.
exactly.
Which is a huge issue in the United States, not so much of an issue here.
You mean huge issue about the age difference?
Oh, yes.
Is that right?
Back in the States.
Back in the U.S.?
Now, here, not so much.
No,
I mean, here, you know, it was kind of like they were a lot more concerned about the fact that I'd been divorced than they were about the age difference.
Okay.
But we went back to America. Eventually, we courted and so forth online, and I brought her to America on a fiancé visa. We got married.
Okay.
And eventually, we went public with our story.
Okay.
And in fact, why don't I read you a little portion of the book that talks about the reaction when we went
Before
public.
that, very quickly, is it a growing, but it's a growing phenomenon already in the U.S. For like somebody like you marrying into a Filipina?
Absolutely,
That's
it
a growing phenomenon.
Absolutely.
Thus, I am quite surprised when you said that it's something that it's quite frowned upon in the U.S.
Well,
I thought it was the other way around. No, not really here.
well, it's not frowned on by the men who are marrying Filipinas.
Okay.
It's frowned on by some of their former wives.
Okay.
And
Okay.
and you know, apparently it's a very controversial issue. There are people very much into it, and I'll tell you why too.
Yeah.
I think it's a very interesting phenomenon, and a lot of the book is about this.
Yes.
What we've experienced in America since the '60s, which is in this book, is kind of a loss of traditional values, a loss of, you know, and it started out as something called feminism, which back when we were advocating in the '60s simply meant equality, you know, equality between men and women.
Yeah.
But eventually it seemed to, over the years, evolve into a different issue, whereas equality came to mean sameness. In other words, it wasn't just about the quality of the sexes, it was about the idea that there's no difference between the genders.
Between men and women.
Between men and women. And if you accept that, it's very easy to get to the point where that has a huge effect on gender roles. It's a short drift to the idea that any sort of roles based on gender are discriminatory. That means father, mother, husband, wife.
Traditional or stereotype.
Yes, and so what that leads to is a loss of traditional values. You know, so whereas you know, and that's been I think that's taken a huge toll in America, and I think that there are many men like me who feel that loss and yearn for a more traditional value, for a traditional family. And I think that many of those men find that in the Philippines with younger Filipinas who still have those values.
Yeah. I wonder if it is true only in your place, in that small, quaint town that you had described.
Oh no, we've only lived there for a year. This was true in Los Angeles. This is true everywhere.
The big counties and the big cities and
absolutely,
others.
Absolutely. And what I was going to tell you about was the reaction that what taught me that was a reaction we got when we finally went public with it. And if you want, I can read you a section
please
about
go
that.
ahead. Public with your
our story.
With your story. Okay.
Let me see if I can find it here.
Yeah. But you have made markings already, no?
Yes.
On your book. Okay. Page something, at least for me.
173.
Okay. Yeah.
And this is the story of how we went public and what the reaction was, which I think will tell you, which will very well talk about this problem we're talking about. It all started during lunch with an editor I'd worked for at the Times, now employed by Orange Coast magazine. So tell me what you've been up to, he said. Fill me in on the last 8 years. As I did, his eyes grew large. Are you telling me that you married a younger woman from the Philippines who you met online, he asked, incredulously. How would you feel about writing on that? And so we were off. When the 3,000-word essay appeared in the magazine's April 2012 issue under the title My Imported Bride, my ears started imploding. By early the next morning, it was clear that we had a hit. A hit, that is, if you define such as creating a buzz. But buzzes aren't always good to hear, and this one, frankly, sounded like it was coming from a chainsaw. The onslaught began with a call from a friend indicating that publication of my story was the lead item in that day's LA Observed, the most widely read media blog in Los Angeles. Within hours, I'd been asked to do a reading for a popular news show on the local California public radio station, and from there, everything mushroomed. My 15 minutes of infamy had clearly begun. But it was the story in the Orange County Weekly, an alternative newspaper not unlike the one I'd worked for years before, that elicited the most interesting and, I must say, chilling response. If I were him, I'd sleep with one eye open, a reader wrote after perusing the article entitled, David Haldane has a mail-order bride and wants his neighbors to be cool with it. Why? Because, the reader continued, his new little honey may not think this arrangement is so wonderful. Over the next few days, the critiques flew in, not only on the original magazine's website, but on those of a host of other publications and blogs that had picked up the story. Wow, so sad, someone wrote. She married him for the U.S., and all he wants is a trophy wife and hot sex. Commented another, all I can say is, oh my God, he looks like her grandfather. I wouldn't let that shriveled thing near me for any amount of money. That's one of my favorites. Gradually, a common theme began to emerge, that I was a loser who, unable to attract a woman in the normal way, had resorted to preying on vulnerable young females in a developing country. Not only was I exploiting Ivy, the rap continued, but by extolling the process, providing aid and comfort to human trafficking worldwide. And frankly, I was a male chauvinist pig capable of happiness only with a weak woman who subordinates her own needs to his. The key in this story, one reader commented, is traditional values, which is barely disguised code for accepting a subservient position in marriage. Then a few supportive voices emerged. Who are any of you to judge the happiness or motivation of two people you don't know? A reader wondered. Relationships are hard, and it's great if two people can make it work. And finally, there was this, responding directly to the charge of traditional values as subservience. Or it could be, it could mean, traditional values. Someone who still values the sanctity of marriage, someone who believes that crass materialism will never equate to the value of a family, someone who believes that children are a blessing and not just a fashion accessory or tool with which to manipulate your spouse. That one almost made me cry. I couldn't have said it better myself. Through it all, Ivy maintained an attitude of stoicism. After reading a few letters, she simply stopped. Do any of these people know us? She asked rhetorically, responding to my expressions of concern. Do they have our address? Will they come to our door? Then why, she wondered, should she deign to be bothered? I, on the other hand, read every word and felt chastened. But I also felt something else, surprise and disappointment at the ferocity of the assault. For ours, in theory, is a tolerant and open society, is it not? I couldn't imagine anyone publicly expressing this kind of outrage regarding, say, a same-sex relationship or one between black and white. Yet Ivy and I, it seemed, were fair game. Obviously, there were some major gaps in the texture of our tolerance. It's funny, one man wrote, that these losers never want to settle in their bride's home country. If they love these folks so bad, why don't they live where they can be surrounded by them, really taking the culture good, both good and bad. It was hard to argue with that. The time would come, in fact, when I wouldn't argue at all.
Yes. Beautiful prose again, David. But, it's giving us another perspective of, number one, mail order brides. Number two, getting something like getting a bride online. Number three, the age gap difference or something like that. But, it's actually painting a different scenario because 8 years of being together and having a son, for that matter.
Yeah.
And I can say this because I have met Ivy. Ivy is with us here. It's giving us a different perspective, no?
Yeah.
That something like this one, like this setup, can actually be a success. You can actually make a go for it.
Well, that's right, and I think it's definitely worked for us. We have a wonderful marriage.
That's true. That's true.
And a solid marriage.
Correct.
And most people who know us don't say these things and don't feel these
Definitely.
things. This is prejudice. This
Yeah,
is people who
definitely.
don't know anything about
Correct.
us.
That's true.
But since all this happened, especially since I wrote that article and the book and so forth,
Yeah.
we've come into contact with increasing numbers of couples just like us, Phil-Am
Yeah.
couples. So
Yes,
you were
yes.
asking, is it an increasing phenomenon?
Yes, yeah.
Absolutely it is.
Is not only in your place, no,
No,
in the
all
small,
over.
but all over the U.S. for that matter.
Absolutely. I get
And-
emails
Okay.
now that my name is out there. I get
Yeah.
emails from people, frequently men usually,
Okay.
and actually Filipinos email me and ask how can they meet someone like me.
Correct. Yeah.
And men
it-
ask
yeah.
advice how to do this.
Is,
you know?
is it predominantly among Filipinas that American men like you marry into?
I would say
or other nationalities.
Well, there are other nationalities. There are Russians involved,
okay.
and there are different Eastern Europeans.
Yes.
But I would say, of course, the ones I know are mostly Filipinos because that's what I know
okay.
about. And I would
Yeah.
say Filipinos are a big,
Correct.
are very popular.
Yes, I know. Yeah, but I'm actually curious, no? Without asking Ivy, but maybe you can speak for Ivy.
Yeah.
How does she feel about all these publicity, if I may call it as such, no? And all these opinions from people.
Well, again.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, again, you have to ask her, but since she's not
Okay,
here,
yeah.
I believe that
But she tells
I
you
think
how she feels.
Yeah, I think she has a very good attitude. She's not affected by it too
Okay.
much. Her attitude is, they don't know us.
Yeah. Okay.
They're not going to come to our
Yeah.
house. They're not going to call us. Who cares?
Okay, that's
why
great.
why should we worry about it? And you asked earlier, about what it takes to write your personal story.
Correct.
I think Ivy has encouraged me to do that through her example, and I hope that the book, I hope that my book is as honest as I could make it, and I don't think I come off as being a hero in the book by any means. I think it shows a lot of flaws.
Correct.
But I think that I hope that for people who read the book, it will be a learning experience that maybe some people can learn from my experience and not make the mistakes that I made. They can
Yeah.
make new mistakes.
Yes, but those mistakes are in this book, right?
Yes,
you have written about it.
Yes.
Now, because we're pressed for time, David, maybe you can tell our televiewers, you'll still be coming to the university tomorrow, right?
Yes,
to
absolutely.
lecture to our senior high schoolers
Yes.
on media and information literacy, primarily on how to break into print, because that's what you're actually doing. Life as a journalist, because that is what you have been doing for the past 23 years or so. And then how can they get a copy of the book? You said that it can be downloaded for free?
Yes, for beginning right now, well, tomorrow, really.
Tomorrow, which
for
is a
the next
Tuesday.
5 days, the ebook will be
Yeah.
available on Amazon.com for free download for Kindle.
Okay.
You can also buy the paperback, but
But
that's
is it
not
sold
free.
here? No, it's not sold here.
No, it's really
No.
not sold in bookshops too much. Anywhere. It's mostly online. It's available on Amazon.com and
Okay.
Barnes and Noble.
So they
But
can order it
you
through,
can Amazon.com is probably the best place to order it.
Okay.
Or as I say, BarnesandNoble.com. But Amazon is good at
Yes,
shipping and all that.
yes.
If you really want the paperback, get it at Amazon.com. But if you want to read the book and you like
and the
reading
ebook.
ebooks,
The ebook,
yes, you like reading ebooks, you can download it for free for the next 5
Yes,
days.
and then as a parting shot, David, after all, you'll still be lecturing to 2 universities by tomorrow, right? The
Yes.
entire day, it will be a busy one for you. But I'd like you to maybe give us some small nuggets of inspiration or perhaps words of wisdom to our young people out there, or even anyone for that matter, who would like to break into print, who love writing, who have this passion for writing, but perhaps are in other fields other than writing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my first bit of advice is if you love to write, do it. Do it all you can. Write about whatever you can. Write about your life. Write about things that you find interesting. Practice. No one is born a great writer or even a good writer. Practice makes you better, and practice, I don't believe that you're ever perfect, but practice will help. And one day, and also if you want to publish on the internet, publish yourself, submit to publications, pitch story ideas, Look at the world as a story, and if something jumps out at you and you find it interesting, and it raises a question in your mind, it will probably raise a question in other people's minds, and it will probably be interesting to them as well. That's a story. Pitch it, write it, sell it.
Yeah, that's really a mouthful, David, but I'm sure our young high schoolers, senior high schoolers would get the nuggets of inspiration from you, especially so that they are going into a track that they really want. But even for those who may not go into the academic or the writing track, they can definitely go into writing, especially if they love to, right? So this is not your first and last time in Dumaguete, I suppose. I hope you can come back again.
I will definitely come back. We love Dumaguete.
Yeah, definitely for maybe a lengthier visit, maybe a lecture here and there, and maybe more time, no?
We hope to come back.
More time to explore the city of gentle people. So once again, thank you very much, Mr. David Haldane, and we hope to see you tomorrow in our media and information literacy classes. So with that, friends, we bring to a close another live episode of #SU. We hope to see you again next Monday for another interesting episode with our guests and our activities ongoing at Silliman University. Good evening and God bless everyone.